Today is Friday, June 28th. We're going to go around the bases with our MLB insider at the New York Post. He is none other than Jon Heyman. John, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing well. As a Yankees fan, struggling a little bit to see this team play as of recently, losing and getting swept in the Subway Series to the Mets this week, and then getting demolished by the last place Toronto Blue Jays last night. John, let's start there with the Yanks, though. I mean, started off great this season, right? First place in the AL East, looked like the best team in Major League Baseball, possibly. The offense was clicking. Mind you, Aaron Judge is still hitting, but I got to ask you right now, what the heck is going on with the Yankees?
Well, you are a Yankee fan because you use the word struggling. You're looking on the positive side of things. Yankee fans are different than Met fans. And thank you for saying struggling rather than scuffling. Scuffling, not that kind of a word. That's not the right word, but I see it all the time. Struggling is not the word I will use because I'm neutral and I say they are stinking lately. They stink. They're not good. They're getting clobbered every day. I mean, I went in Boston, saw them. They were not good there. They lost 2 out of 3. They came home against the Mets. One game was close thanks to Aaron Judge and Soto. I mean, two-man team. You never saw it more than in that Mets series. I mean, add it up. See what Judge and Soto did, and look what the rest of the team did. It's a two-man team right now, and that is not even their biggest issue. Uh, Obviously the bullpen, they've got a transition. It's in transition. They're switching guys here and in and out on the bullpen. But the biggest issue for me is the rotation now suddenly. It was the best in the league for a while, probably tied with Seattle. But right now that rotation is questionable. Gil has had 2 bad ones in a row. Cole obviously couldn't find the strike zone against the Mets in game 1 there. So that's an issue now too. And Rodon, I mean, looked like he turned it around in the last 3 innings at Fenway, but the last 2 starts have been poor. So, I mean, they've got issues in the rotation. They've got issues in the bullpen. And as a lineup, we know it's a two-man lineup. I mean, those two men are so good. I mean, obviously Judge looks like the MVP so far. Soto's certainly in the top 3. But the rest of that lineup, unbelievably bad right now.
Yeah, you're putting it. You're hitting on all the things that the Yankees are clearly. The struggles and signs are there for this team. For me, John, I think the lineup is definitely a concern considering the injuries to Stanton and Rizzo, and now you're seeing that guys like Verdugo, who's going through a tough stretch here. He's not performing, so therefore it's a top heavy lineup, right? It's Volpe, Soto, and Judge who are performing. The rest not so well. And I guess, John, and this is something, we had talked about right before the season started, right? I asked you, what's your biggest concern with this Yankees team? And you said the rotation, because Garrett Cole was out for the first half of the season. A lot of these guys, they had injury concerns. At their best, they'd be all-stars. At their worst, which we had seen on some of them last year, like Rodon, this is what he was kind of last year. I mean, the Orioles got smacked around. And now last night against the last place Blue Jays, you get smacked around again. Do they have cause for concern? I mean, they gave him a 6-year deal, and this is again it's looking not great for Rodon right now.
Yeah, I mean, Rodon's ERA is around 4.5 now. It had been around 3 starts ago. So certainly he is a major issue. And I think Cole will straighten it out. I saw he flashed 99 last game. He's still working his way back. We thought he was ready after 10 strikeouts in AAA. Big difference between AAA and the majors right now. The Mets showed him what it's
Yeah.
like in the major leagues, and maybe that's why he was hesitant to say, I'm ready to go. He finally did say, I'm ready to go. And, at this point, maybe he was pressured into it by all the fans and everybody else, myself, thinking, oh, man, he just killed it in AAA. He's got to be ready by now. Maybe Cole's not quite ready, but I think he'll be fine. He'll, I 2 bad ones in a row. That's a concern. The rotation is, to me, the big concern because those 2 guys are so good and the other teams don't get it. Just walk them already. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Why do
I don't
people
know what
keep
the hell
throwing a
was going
Judge?
on. And the Mets, I mean, Danny Young, don't want to pick on him, but the score is 9-3. You can't walk Soto. I know, he's great at walking and he'd already walked a couple times in the game, but Judge is on deck. It's 9-3. You got to pitch to Soto. You got to throw it over the middle. You can't walk him, have the bases loaded, and have Judge come up. Those 2 guys are amazing, and I think they're going to continue to do great. But you said Stanton's out. That's a loss, definitely. I mean, Rizzo wasn't doing that great.
Right.
I don't know. I think maybe Rice can be just as good as Rizzo, but the problems are much deeper than that. You know,
Yes.
as you're an optimistic Yankee fan, I get it. The Mets are the opposite. Their fans are pessimistic, but I mean, you got Glaber. He's doing nothing. He's been
Oh, got
terrible.
benched. He's been benched for the last 2 games.
Yeah, and he batted cleanup in game one. I don't get how a guy goes from cleanup to on the bench. I don't know what the idea of batting him cleanup was. I mean, Verdugo's in a slump as well. But you got to figure something else
You're
out.
not
Where the
getting
guy
anything
who's
from
doing the
LeMahieu,
worst,
right? Oswaldo
LeMahieu has
Cabrera. I
done
mean, they don't have
nothing.
anyone in the lineup.
Right, right. Cabrera, Peraza has not turned out. The injury to Dominguez, which we haven't really talked about,
Yeah.
2 month injury. If they had him to come in and for Stanton, you'd have a cleanup hitter, I think. I mean, that guy is a great prospect, certainly a very good hitter. They need a third wheel. You can't have two guys. And I mean, they could live with the two guys carrying them if the pitching was better, but right now
Right.
it's not.
No, it's not. And to your point, the bullpen is which the first thing you hit on, and I think we all know as what Cashman recognizes what the weaknesses are. That bullpen obviously will be addressed before the deadline. If you were to rank the 3 things that you think this Yankees team really needs to address before the deadline, real quick to wrap up the Yankees segment, what would be those 3 positions you'd see them making moves for?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're looking at rotation too.
Wow.
But I mean, bullpen is their number one thing, and that's been their number one thing. That you can do the bullpen. There are guys available, going to be available at the bullpen, whether it be Tanner Scott, maybe Mason Miller, Crochet potentially, maybe Kopech, maybe Fairbanks from Tampa,
Okay.
Estevez from the Angels. There are 7 guys, I would say, who are closers. So there are other relievers who are going to be available. And I think that's still where their focus is going to be. I mean, they're going to have to hope that, maybe Heel has hit a limit with the innings, but you're going to have to hope that Cole and Rodon figure it out. Because if they don't, they're not going to be anywhere. They are going to look at a rotation. They are one of the teams hunting around at rotation. I would say every contending team is looking at bullpen and rotation. Maybe Seattle and Philly not looking at rotation so much, but basically every team looking at rotation and every team looking at bullpen. And that's what they're looking at. Infield, I mean, I think they're talking to Birdie now. Birdie's going to come back and he's going to be the savior. I mean, John Birdie's a good, solid utility player, but I mean, he's basically IKF to me. I don't see that he's going to solve that problem. They need someone who can step in there and be a cleanup hitter right now, and a 5 hitter and a 6, and on and on and on. So their hitting is an issue as well, and there are not a ton of good hitters on the market. Right now, it's a big sellers market.
Yeah.
Only 5 committed sellers. We'll see about Tampa. I think they will sell. I don't think the Red Sox are going to sell now. There are a couple other
Toronto.
teams. Cubs. Toronto should sell, as I wrote
Okay.
in today's post.
Yeah.
Should. Does that mean they're going to? Right now, they're holding it off. Obviously, Springer looks better. It looked great against the Yankees last night. They're hoping, but I mean, they still have a run differential of about -40. They don't look like a contender to me, and I don't think they're going to get a long-term deal with Bichette or Guerrero. So, to me, even if they got a year to go, you can get more for them.
Yeah.
Not a lot of good hitters out there to sell, and Bichette just came back, but he puts together 2 good weeks. You could still get a ton for him, and I do think you can get a lot for Guerrero, a decent amount. I mean, more for the pitching. If they made Bassett available, they could get a lot for him as
Yeah.
well. Kikuchi, they could get for him. They have players. They
They
just
do.
don't have a team for whatever reason.
Yeah, they underperformed tremendously this year. And to your point, I think we're in that middle and I think you would agree, John. We're in that middle point of the season, right? Where we got a month to go here. Teams are still trying to figure out with the expanded wild card if they can still get a chance to make the playoffs, and maybe we'll start to see more teams, dive into that situation of saying, "Yep, all right, we can sell a couple pieces off." But speaking of teams that could have sold a couple pieces off, the New York Mets now have all of a sudden turned things around back to 500. I mean, John, the turnaround in Queens, I can't harp on this enough. You have said from the start of the season, this is a playoff team. They are a playoff team the way they are assembled. They should make the playoffs because of the wild card and just because there's too much talent in that lineup, and they're starting to mesh. And the one thing I want to also ask you on about the Mets is Francisco Alvarez, since he's in the lineup, they win baseball games. They play a lot better when he is in the lineup and he is catching. What can you say about
Yeah.
the team in Queens right now?
Well, having a good hitting catcher is huge. If you can have, because right now the league is hitting 242. There are some catchers out there hitting well below 200. If you have a catcher who can hit around 300, I don't know that he's going to stay around 300. That's big. Obviously, Posada, extremely valuable. I voted for him for the Hall of Fame. I just think it's just such a valuable thing having a catcher who can hit. Piazza was same thing with the Mets. Just saw him over there at for the Subway Series. I mean, even if he's average defensively, and I think he is at least average defensively, it's big. Right now, their lineup is deep, particularly compared to other teams, not just the Yankees. If they get McNeil going, that'll really be something. But basically, everybody else is doing what you'd hope them to do. Lindor has been great since he's been in the leadoff spot. Nimmo's been really good. JD Martinez is a professional hitter. He's giving everybody tips. I think Alonso's doing fine. It's more in it for him probably, but up and down that lineup has been good, and that's really the key difference between the two teams right now. And I do think the Mets have rotation depth. You've got Budo waiting in the wings. You've got Christian Scott waiting in the wings. Senga, maybe. I'm not counting on that one, but, Peterson's okay. He's good enough, particularly if they can hit the way they can hit. And I think McGill's up and down, but still not bad. I think their rotation is good. Their big question is obviously that bullpen. You've got Diaz out now. What's he going to be without the sticky stuff when he comes back? You've got Drew Smith is now out. Raley is out, and they've blown a lot of late leads, and that's really what put them in behind the eight ball to begin with, and that's why when I wrote that they're going to make the playoffs, it didn't look so good, and then it started to look worse. And right now at 500, it doesn't look too bad. They're still hanging around one or two games out of it because St. Louis and San Diego are a little bit ahead of them, but they're right in the thick of things, and I don't see them as a seller at this point. They better not sell.
No, they're like you said, their lineup is mashing. The rotation is deep. You hope to see their bullpen perform a little bit better when they get Diaz back from suspension, from the sticky stuff. The question I think for Mets fans, John, and maybe hopefully you could somewhat allude to it, is in your sense, could they be like quiet buyers, if you know what I mean? Like they could maybe go get like another reliever or two, or look at, maybe even strengthening that second base position if McNeil isn't performing well. Just what is your sense in Queens? Or are they just more like, hey, we got guys ready to go in the minors, like they're ready to step into that position when we need them?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to get bullpen pieces. Their bullpen is not deep enough at this point. I mean, that was one area where they looked pretty solid to begin with, but obviously they got rid of Lopez. We have to go over that one. Tonkin, they DFA'd him twice. He's now doing well with the Yankees. That was obviously looks like a mistake today. The bullpen is the issue. You can go get bullpen pieces. They need to go get bullpen pieces. They don't have to give up your best prospects for bullpen pieces, but that's absolutely what they need to do. If they trade rotation for bullpen, I'll probably be okay with that because other than Severino, I'm not sure they have a star in that rotation. I think they can give up somebody out of the rotation, and the rotation pieces are going to be overpriced at this point because everybody, as I said, except Seattle and maybe Philly, needs rotation pieces. I don't know. Can we trade McNeil for Gleyber Torres? I don't know. Is that a change of scenery if you move 8 miles? I'm not sure. I don't think that'll work, and I don't think the Yankees will take McNeil because he's got the bad contract. Gleyber, thankfully for the Yankees, is on an expiring contract. I can't believe 2019, I was on a segment at MLB Network, and I was asked, who would you take to start a team now? Gleyber Torres or, get this, Juan Soto. I mean, at the time, Gleyber Torres was on his way to 38 home runs as a middle infielder. So I guess the producer thought, oh, maybe this is a question. I mean, even then, it wasn't really a question. You still went with Soto. So
you're attacking producers at MLB Network now.
Yeah, I mean, in 2019,
it's the Juice Ball era.
Debates, whatever. I don't know what it was. He was killing Baltimore. Remember that? He hit a home run every time he went to Baltimore, and they stumped now. Now they're pretty good, obviously, very good. So I think he's choking. I actually do. I mean, it's the platform year. Some guys take it and run with it. Judge, the all-time example of that. Soto doing a great job with that right now. And I just think the pressure is getting to him. And I think that's why batting him cleanup, I mean, he looked like he was feeling for the ball that game. I mean, he looked worse than he had looked when they put him in the cleanup spot. Don't bat him cleanup. First of all, he doesn't deserve it. Second of all, I think it's too much for him. Bat him somewhere else. Bat him 6th, 7th, whatever. But I get it. Nobody else is hitting. You got to really picking out of a hat now to see who the cleanup hitter is, I guess.
It's
Yeah, I mean,
amazing where,
Stanton's a big loss. I mean,
yeah.
you could say what you want. The fans can complain. The front office even complains about him. But I mean, the guy can still play and he can still hit. I
He
mean,
can still play, he can still hit, but he always gets hurt. And that's where we're at right now,
right.
again, unfortunately, with Giancarlo Stanton in his career. Again, just a really quick wrap up with the Mets. And they're starting a 3-game set against a hot Astros team that's played well recently, too. You touched a little bit on Senga right there. What is your sense there? Is this guy going to return in the second half, or is it just we don't know? It's Japanese pitching.
I
They
mean,
have their own way of recovery and rehab and all that.
the team doesn't know, so I'm not going to pretend that I
Okay.
know. I tried interviewing him with the interpreter. You get nowhere with it. I don't know what it is. He's not really communicative, and it's difficult. I mean, it's certainly a language barrier, number one, but I just don't think he gives anything away.
Okay.
And hopefully he tells the team a little bit more than he tells me. And I get it. I mean, I was, I don't know if he knows, but I was the one who wrote that he had a bad medical, and that's why he didn't do so great in the negotiation after they had signed him. I don't think he knows that. I think he's just a very cautious guy, as is Otani. I mean, look at Otani. He's got all these people traveling the world to cover him, and he gives them nothing. In fact, he's cut off some of them because I think one of them revealed who his wife was. Like, we weren't going to find out at some point who his wife is. I don't know. But, I mean, Matsui was a pleasure for the media. Some guys are just very cautious.
Yep. It's certainly an interesting situation. Something I want to keep an eye on, obviously, over the next month or so. He is throwing more bullpens. I know that, and I think he was throwing batting practice or something the other day. But we'll see how the situation develops in Queens. But the Mets are playing great baseball. All right, John, we're at that midway point in the season. So I know the awards talk has already started. I got to ask you, who are your award leaders right now in the AL and NL?
Well, Judge is the AL MVP. I don't see how you could pick somebody else at this point. I did a little poll in the Yankee clubhouse a week ago where it was a little bit of a question. I mean, obviously Soto's doing great. Gunnar Henderson's been amazing, but Judge is the AL MVP. I think that'd probably be a consensus 100% one. In the National League, at this point, I still going with Betts because I'm overwhelmed by a guy being able to play shortstop and doing what he did. He's now out, and he's out for several more weeks, so he's not going to win the award. It'll probably go to Otani, who I have second. In the pitching department, I've got Tarek Skubal, although Seth Lugo, our old friend, the reliever from the Mets, is right in the thick of that race. And in the National League, the Phillies' number 3 starter, which tells you where the Phillies stand. Their number 3 starter is the Cy Young winner right now, Ranger Suarez.
Ranger Suarez. He's been great.
Yeah.
He's been great. I can't argue with those. I mean, I would. The one thing I would ask you about the National League MVP, Otani's putting together quite the year right now. I mean, he's got 27 home runs, I think, or 28. I mean, he's again just mashing it in that lineup, and they put him in the leadoff spot against the White Sox, and he was just crushing the. I mean, everyone crushes the White Sox.
The White Sox, yeah,
yeah, he was still doing well though.
Yeah.
All right, John.
I mean, he's going to win. I think he'll win, but
okay.
at this moment. If the season ended today, I go with Betts because I'm just amazed that a guy can move and become a shortstop. I mean, Aaron Judge could do anything. Can we put him at shortstop? I'm a little skeptical. Anybody. I'm not picking on Aaron Judge.
No.
He's amazing, and he's a good center fielder after being a great right fielder, and he's the AL MVP, and I think he's the best position player in baseball. I think Betts is the only guy who could do that, go play shortstop and be good enough.
Yeah, good enough, and he plays a hell of an outfield, obviously, too. Let's bring this all home. Your most disappointing team of the week. I think I know who it is, but who is it, John?
Did I tell you? I don't think well, I got to go with the Yankees again, but so we won't have to spend too much time on this. We've already bashed them enough, but I mean, come on, they're getting killed every day. Their lineup is in disarray. It's terrible. They got 2 players. I don't think I have to go over the litany of issues that they have right now, but it's a long one.
Yeah, it's a long one. Again, playing the last place Blue Jays. They got 3 more games this weekend. It's been a rough June, to say the least. John, we appreciate you as always for going around the bases. I know there's going to be a lot of trade rumors and news coming in the coming weeks, and we're looking forward to hearing and reading all of your coverage as we continue through this baseball season. Thank you as always, man.
All right, Ryan, hang in there.
I'll try.